Okay. So let me describe the problem we solve, and then I'll talk about how testosterone works in a biological perspective and even how it mechanically works in your body. So, first thing is, right? Most people believe that when guys are coming to us, they're saying, I want bigger muscles and I want better sex. Those are all positive benefits. But the reality is that guys are coming to us and they're saying, I can't get on the ground and play with my kids anymore. I can't have a real relationship with my partner or spouse because I can't sit down and have the patience to have a real conversation. They say, I can't earn more money for the people I love because I can't go to work and focus so I can get that promotion. Right. So these are like deep identity based issues that our guys are coming to us with. Now, that being said, there are testosterone receptors on every one of the cells in your body. And testosterone works differently in different cells. But maybe the punchline is if you have low testosterone, you have energy problems, you have focus problems, you gain weight, you can have libido problems. It's highly misdiagnosed as being depressed. So there are a lot of antidepressants given out to men every single year when it's really just a hormone imbalance. It also leads to higher rates of dementia if you have low testosterone. It leads to more brittle bones. And so the most interesting research that's come out recently is that previously, what people thought is that if you take testosterone, you have a higher chance of cardiovascular disease. The more recent research is showing if you are hypogonadal, that is the clinical term for having low testosterone, and you take testosterone, you have fewer comorbidities, you have fewer cardiovascular events, you have lower rates of diabetes, lower rates of depression. And so the most important thing to think about is if you think about like the energy and vigor you had in your 20s, and then by the time you get into your 30s, it slows down just a little bit, but just subtly, not in a very real way. And then by the time you hit your 40s, your 50s, you really feel like you've started to kind of lose that extra step. And that extra step can manifest itself in so many different ways based upon your personality. You have to start thinking to yourself, if I wanted to feel like I did when I was younger, I would probably want to replace this hormone. Now, let me give you the biology lesson, and I'm very happy you pointed that out. I am not a medical physician, and so this is not clinical physician advice. So what ends up happening is you have this little gland in your brain. And so imagine if you were to draw a line between your eyes into the base of your skull, and that little gland is called your hypothalamus. And underneath your hypothalamus, you have your pituitary gland. And imagine the two of those structures combined are like a thermostat for all the hormones in your body. Now, what ends up happening is you have this hormone that is secreted from your pituitary gland. It is called luteinizing hormone. That luteinizing hormone travels through your body into your testes. And in your testes, you have these cells called Leydig cells, and it basically activates them. And once they are activated, there is testosterone that is produced. Now, the testosterone does one of three things, actually, four things. The first thing is it is what we'll call free testosterone, and it is available for your body's cells to use in whatever function they need to use that testosterone. That's like the most positive one. The second one is there is what we call a bunch of SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, in your body, and albumin. And it basically finds that testosterone and it hugs it, or it binds it so it can't be useful in your body. The other two things are very interesting. Your testosterone converts in what they call DHT. And so DHT is actually a far more anabolic hormone, or most people actually know it as the hormone that's responsible for men's hair loss if you are predisposed to it. The fourth thing it does is it converts into estrogen. And so estrogen, all men have it. It's actually very good for us, not obviously at elevated levels, but having some in your body is incredibly protective. Now, what ends up happening is that testosterone and that estrogen travel through your body, and then your hypothalamus and your pituitary, they sense how much you have of it. And based upon how much you have of it, it tells them to either secrete more or less LH. There's also FSH, but primarily really LH is the one that we really focus on. And so as you get older, let's call it from 30 onwards, your body begins losing its natural ability to produce 1 to 2 percentage points of testosterone per year. And so with that, the way that really manifests itself is those Leydig cells we talked about in your testes, just imagine they slowly start to shut off. And so by the time you're 40, you have lost the ability for your body to naturally produce 10 to 20% of what you could produce when you were in your 30s. By the time you're in your 50s, 30 to 40%. And so based upon what your hormone markers look like, your age, and also your fertility desires, our physicians can actually get a pretty accurate reading and understanding of what we should do to help restore you back to youthful levels.